Hey, John here. This year I decided to launch a new site with an age domain. An age domain is one that was previously a website, has some referring domains and some age, and in theory all of these things should help grow the organic search traffic a lot faster out of the gates. I've never done this before. I contacted Otis.global and they hooked me up with a good domain and I'm off to the races. And this video is going to step you through everything that I've done with the site to get it where it's at currently. The growth is really good. I'm very happy with it, so I'm optimistic about it. So let's dive into the details. So I launched the site April 15, 2021. I had acquired the domain shortly before that. In case you follow along in the income reports, it's site number 11, and the domain was acquired from Otis. Now, it was age, it had a DR of 36, which is an hrefs domain measurement metric, and it had roughly 188 referring domains at the time I acquired it. However, there was a bit of a rocky start with Otis. This wasn't the first domain I got from Otis. It was probably about a month before that I had acquired a different domain. It turned out it was trademarked. So I went back to him. I said, well, this is a big problem. Fortunately, a colleague or friend on the Fat Sox forum knew I had acquired this particular domain and alerted me to the fact that it was trademarked. I didn't even check because I assumed Otis did, but somehow it slipped through the cracks. There was some legal team transition, etc., etc., etc. It was trademarked. Anyways, they said, listen, just pick another domain and we'll obviously just give it to you for no extra cost. So that's what I did. It did turn out to be a bit of a bonus in that I was able to 301 redirect a lot of the initial URLs on the original domain to the new site. So that actually helped it out. Even though it was trademarked, I didn't publish anything on the site. It's not even published. In fact, you can't even find it now because it all redirects to the new site. So that was some additional inbound links to the new domain. So it worked out, but it could have been really bad if that person on the forum had brought it to my attention. It could have been really bad. Imagine 2 years down the road, I'm ignorant, I have no clue, I put a lot of time and money in the site, and there it is, it's trademarked, and I have to basically ditch the site. So it did work out really well. Moral of the story is no matter where or who or whatever source you get domains from, do a trademark search. It's free, it takes seconds. Just type into Google trademark search or something like that, USA, and you'll get to this site. It's like some ancient looking government site, but you want to do that. If you want to be more thorough, I strongly suggest you have a lawyer do a search, because this can cost you a lot in the long run. Now, site build details, nothing fancy. I built this thing. This was right around the time that a lot of us were really working on improving our core web vital scores, also known as CWV. And so by this point that I started building this site, I had a really good grasp of what needed to be done, and more importantly, what not to put on a site. Basically bare bones this sucker. And so nothing fancy, use Astra theme, minimal plugins, and pretty much out of the gates I'm getting some really good CWV scores across the board for the site. So I'm very happy about that. And in terms of the main plugins I use to get those scores, you know, if you've been reading anything about it, you know the usual suspects. We've got Rocket.net Hosting is my latest hosting company, and they do a really nice job, saving lots of money with them. Async, JavaScript, Auto-Optimize, both free. Adaptive Images for WordPress free. Perf Matters, paid but not terribly expensive SEO framework plugin. Free version, but you can also upgrade. I do recommend the upgrade because there are a few things that has there that are pretty important. And infinite scroll for the blog post. Basically, that's built into the Astra theme. So that is the site. Nothing fancy, no custom design, no custom. I did get a logo. Otis is cool. They do provide logos. I actually just went ahead with the one they provided me. It looked good enough. And other than that, clicked a few buttons in Astra. I use a left content align with a right sidebar. That's it. I did do a custom homepage with Gutenberg, just linking out to the main pages on the site. That's it for the site build. Didn't take me long. Alright, currently traffic is looking really good. Now, this is all traffic, and just recently I hit 700 visitors per day, which is super at this stage of the game. Quite happy with that. In terms of Google traffic, Google makes up most of the traffic. It's about 550 visitors per day. Although I launched the site in April, I didn't get Google Analytics set up until looking like somewhere around July. Google Analytics has a whole new version. I don't even know what it's called, and it was difficult to set up, and I had to set up the old version because that's what works with AdThrive. Long story short, took me a while to deal with this. Finally got it going. All right, let's talk about the content. I have quite a bit of content so far. It's not the fastest build that one could do, and I'll explain why that's the case. But right now I've got posts are long form text content. You can see the average word count's 1,800, so that's pretty beefy. The pages, on the other hand, are different. They got an average of 306 words. Now, that's skewed because I've got about 15 articles I need to get to these. Now, the reason I bring this up is this site is a little bit different than other sites I've done. It's a hybrid of both really long-form, informative content as well as more custom illustration focused content, and that's what the pages are. I'm using the pages for that. I'm not going to get into the why I did all that, but it just worked out better. So because it's custom illustrations, that's really doing the heavy lifting and is the main focus of the content for the pages. The word count's not going to be long. Now, I do order up content for those pages, and they average about 500 words, so it's skewed down just because I have a whole inventory I've just got to get added to these. So I do actually publish the pages without the text on them initially and just get them going, and then we add the content after the fact. I'm trying to tighten up that delay in between right now. So content costs and sources, nothing really fancy. If you watch any of my videos, it's the same usual group here. Writer access for 4 cents a word. Passion posts at 3 cents a word. Now, Passion posts, the reason I get that rate is because I order an absolute ton from them every month, so they're giving me some bulk rates. So if you're just going to order smaller amounts, unfortunately it's not going to get that rate. But if you're willing to order tons and tons, you could talk to them about a custom rate. Fiverr gigs, I'm using one guy a lot. Basically, Fiverr was interesting because I knew what I wanted to do with the site, and so I knew that I was going down this custom illustration route. And so I tested 5 or 6 Fiverr gigs early on, and I just really wanted to see who would deliver the best work for the best price. And one guy, again, head and shoulders above the rest. So basically I'm ordering 4 gigs per week from him. I'm not even sure if he could do more. I should talk to him because I'd like to ramp this up because it is working so well. So if you need custom illustrations, Fiverr is a gold mine for that. You may have to test a few out, and unfortunately you're going to get some real duds back and it's lost money. But if you find a winner, it's huge. And I must also mention on June 11 this year, I transferred 11 existing articles from another site. It's site number 3 in the income reports. It was this long story, big site, had multiple niches on there. So I just removed 11 articles. So it did have some existing traffic, not a whole lot, and I moved it to this new site with 301 redirects. So as I mentioned, it's a hybrid content strategy. I'm trying to do about 4 to 8 articles per week. I'd like to get that up, and the only reason I'd like to get that up now is because the site's working, right? The site was always growing pretty good right out of the gates, and that's the real advantage of these age domains, at least so I'm told, and that's that's what we've read, and because that's what we've read and other people have had success with it, I wanted to try it. But I want to increase that volume. I'm not entirely sure I can because it's so dependent on custom illustrations, which are very, very time consuming to produce, and they're not particularly cheap either. They're about $50 per gig. I don't think I indicated that here, but yeah, they're about $50 per gig, and a gig is 1 article, so it does add up, and then there's the text to add on top of that, so it's not cheap. So I'd like to increase that just because it's working, but I'm not sure I'm able to. And so basically it's a real mix of long form text articles and these more custom illustration oriented articles. And right now it varies. I really came out of the gate strong with a lot of the long form text articles, and now I'm kind of slowing on that and reallocating more and more resources to these custom illustrations because that's what's ranking the most right now and getting the most traffic. But I'll carry on with the hybrid strategy for probably quite some time because, well, you know what? It's working, and if something's working, you might as well keep with it. So the focus is Google search traffic. Secondary, I do have a YouTube channel. I actually did put some videos on there. I've slowed on that because I wasn't getting a whole lot of traction, but I may revisit that. I do have a Facebook page. Again, not a whole lot of traction there, but I do post. And I also set up a Pinterest account. And I think there's real promise with Pinterest because it's really visually oriented, but it's going to be a slow grow with Pinterest. We're just starting with 1 or 2 fresh pins per day, and I'm going to slowly grow that up over a year or two. But I don't ever expect YouTube, Facebook, or Pinterest to ever be a focus of the traffic. The real focus right out of the gates when I found this niche and did all the research and planned it out was Google search traffic by far. The potential Google search traffic for this particular niche is really, really high. Now, when I find a lot of keywords that have really high search volume that aren't particularly competitive, which is what you want to find, what you get is you don't get the highest ad revenue per 1,000 visitors either. So I understood that. I didn't really know what my ad RPM would be with the site at all because I've never even touched onto this niche on any of my other sites. So I had no idea. I thought it would be very, very low. It turned out to not be all that high, and I'll get into revenue shortly so you can judge for yourself. But essentially why I like this niche so much is it basically came down to a cookie cutter keyword strategy. And in other words, the illustration pages I'm creating, there are hundreds, potentially over 1,000 particular articles I could do with the same strategy and just coming up with the illustrations. So it's really cookie cutter, and it's largely hands off in that, now I've got everything set up and everybody's trained on how to get this content on the site and how to produce it. So that's what I like. I mean, I don't even really have to do any keyword research because I've just scratched the surface with this basic keyword concept. Now, once I'm done this concept, which is going to take some time at the rate I'm going, I may have to look for a whole other cookie cutter concept, but for now it's working really, really nicely. And if you are in any niche, no matter what niche you're in, if you find a keyword concept that is basically cookie cutter, go after it. I mean, it makes it so easy to do. And not only that, usually the articles are in a very similar format, so it's really easy to train your writers. You basically do the same format for all these different contents. It really helps with speeding up content production for any site. I look for these cookie cutter patterns on all my niche sites, and when I find one, I basically try to exhaust it as fast as possible. In terms of link building, I'm not actually going to invest any money into link building in terms of off-site proactive outreach or guest posting or anything like that, because I don't think I need to. I'm going to rely on the hundreds of custom illustrations that I'm building out, and usually illustrations and images and graphics can do really well to attract links naturally, which is really great. And so it can work particularly well if other sites start actually stealing my work and then providing me a source link. So as you can see, since I've acquired this domain, the links have been pouring in, and we're up to over 2,000 referring domains. Now, you got to caveat that with whenever you see these link profiles, and all my sites have naturally acquired domains referring to them, there's a lot of garbage links in there. Okay, these are not all awesome DR75 top tier websites. No, there's some of those, but a lot of them are junk. But a natural inbound link profile is going to include a bunch of junk. I mean, every site's going to get them. It just kind of happens. So that's what you want to see. But at the end of the day, I really like this trajectory of referring domains. I haven't invested a nickel into link building whatsoever. This is just occurring naturally. So there's really no need to invest in link building at this point. It's happening on its own. And so setting up the site was a little bit more complicated in terms of dealing with the illustrations and coming up with the taxonomies. But once I had all that figured out and I had the tech all set up the way I wanted it, I basically created several prototypes, and then I created training videos for that and hired a dedicated VA. And I got really lucky on this hire on onlinejobs.ph because it was first person who applied. Well, I received a pile of resumes from there, but first person I actually hired and got him on. I could tell right away this guy was really smart. He's on the ball, hard worker. I mean, he's just awesome. He's just doing such a great job. I got very lucky, and so he's basically running the site and getting all the content up daily. Now, in terms of revenue, this site's going to probably be like 99.5% monetized with display ads. There's a little bit of Amazon stuff in there, but it's certainly not going to become the focus at any point. The focus is going to be AdThrive ads. Now, when I started this site, I knew that the traffic potential was huge just doing the keyword research. I knew if I started ranking pretty widespread for a lot of the keywords I was going after, I'm going to grow that traffic really fast, and it's going to get to really, really high levels, like as in millions per month. Now, I'm always far, far more on the optimistic side than otherwise. So I say that, and you know, who knows, maybe it caps at 300,000. I don't know. But anyways, I'm optimistic for traffic, but I wasn't optimistic for the ad revenue per 1,000 visitors. I thought it would be pretty low just through the nature of the site, and I knew nothing about it, and I didn't think it was all that commercial. But I've been pleasantly surprised that the revenue per 1,000 sessions is higher than I thought. I thought it might be 10, maybe $12 per 1,000 visitors, but it's turned out to be higher than that. So the last 30 days, you can see the revenue, which are the green bars here with AdThrive, is going up, up, up very fast. So the revenue is basically mimicking the traffic. But not only that, it wasn't that long ago that RPS figure was more in the $8 to $10 range, and I thought that that's where it would settle. But it's grown to 15 for the last 30 days. And then if I look at yesterday, which was, I think, the highest earning day on the site at 13 bucks, which is really good so far, you can see the RPS has jumped to $18. So that's a really good signal here that this not only has, I think, really good traffic potential, but the actual revenue per 1,000 visitors is not going to be terrible either. Now, 18 is certainly not high. Okay, it just happens to be better than I expected. And you know, a high RPS would be 30, 35, or 40. And I know people on the FatSex forum are getting those numbers with their sites, but they're highly commercial sites. My best site is around the 29, 30 RPS, and that's an average for all the content. But you know, I'm usually happy in the 20 to 25 is really good. So 18 is really good for this niche, and certainly exceeded my expectations. So going forward with the site, it's really down to a rinse and repeat. I still have a ton of cookie cutter keywords to cover at this point, so there's really no reason to veer from that strategy because it's working really well. It's those articles that are actually ranking, and they're pulling in the traffic, and it's growing. So I need to increase production. I would like to, but it's not just a matter of just paying more money for writers to produce more content. I actually have to find a really good Fiverr gig, so that's going to be a bit of a hiccup, but hopefully I can find someone to do that. And I recently, as in this week, started some wide-scale internal linking. I hadn't done any internal linking up until this week, and there was some taxonomy refinements needed to be made. Now, I didn't do any internal linking just because I wasn't really sure the direction I was going to go with the site 100%, and I wasn't really sure how I wanted to structure all the internal links. But now that I've got a couple hundred articles on there, I've got traffic coming in, got a pretty good understanding of where the site's going, it was time then to start interlinking everything together. So I'm hoping that that's going to have a positive impact on search traffic as well in the next few months. And now that I've got a system for internal linking, we'll just carry on as we publish more content. So if you want to learn more, I own several passive earning websites just like this, and together they earn anywhere from 80 to 100+ thousand per month. So this business model works quite well. Just don't, this is not good. It doesn't happen overnight. I didn't build that up overnight. It's taken years and a lot of learning. But I'm constantly learning. I'm trying new different sites. But together, that's what my sites are doing right now. Now, that's gross. I still got a lot of expenses that come off that, and the biggest expense is always reinvestment back into content. And those numbers don't include FatSex. I never talk about FatSex revenue or anything. That's not relevant. We're talking about portfolio niche sites. So you can grab my free course at fatsexblog.com. And if you are interested in the age domain, you can check out otis.global/fatsex or just go to otis.global if you use the FatSex. That is an affiliate link. Thank you if you use it. If not, no sweat. I hope this video was both helpful and maybe a bit inspiring. Now, I understand that it's fairly early to do a case study for any type of site at the 5-month mark, and I mean 700 visitors per day. I'm happy with that number at this stage of the site build, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's 13 bucks a day. This is not life-changing revenue. So this is a really early case study video to do, but it is working, and it's working very fast. And the advantage of the age domain really seems to be working in that I was able to get traffic to grow and come to the site a lot faster than I suspect than if I had registered a fresh domain. Thanks a lot for watching.